Hi. Cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin have been around for quite a few years now and have gained widespread awareness and adoption. But it's the technology behind Bitcoin, the technology that underpins it, that might in the end offer the greatest potential. And that technology is called blockchain. I'm speaking today to Dr. Windsor Holden, our practice lead in this area. He's going to help me to understand the potential of this technology and who the likely winners may be. Windsor.
Hi, sir.
Thank you for joining us today. First of all, in a nutshell, what is blockchain?
Okay. In a nutshell, it's a ledger. It can be used to store information about transactions, the history of assets, any kind of digitized information. And the beauty of it is that it's transparent, it's robust, it's secure, and if you're using a private blockchain, it can be accessed only by those who have permission to do so.
Well, blockchain has had so much hype over the last few years. I've even seen it in TV adverts.
Yeah.
But
during the World Cup.
During the World Cup. But some people said it's like the birth of the internet. Surely not. It can't be that big.
I think that's over-egging the pudding a little bit, Tony.
Yeah.
What I would say is that it has the potential to underpin a numerous number of use cases across a whole host of verticals moving forward in the background. So I would have said maybe not going as far as the internet, but certainly it has the potential to be highly disruptive and highly beneficial to a number of industries.
Okay. And what sort of industries are interested in blockchain?
Initially, it was really just financial services because that built almost on what blockchain was historically being used for, which was underpinning cryptocurrencies. Now, increasingly, you've had research performed across a whole host of different verticals, anything from automotive, healthcare, land registry, use cases including authentication. So the potential use cases are growing and growing.
Okay, so what markets do you believe will be the early adopters?
It will primarily be financial services. You are also seeing areas like healthcare coming in, land registry, there's a lot of activity, food provenance. And one of the beauties in that area, for example, is that it enables the reduction of fraud.
I always think blockchain, I always think that conveyancing and a estate agency would be ideal for blockchain because it's such a haphazard sort of process that if you had a blockchain and everybody had everything on the blockchain, the contracts, the surveys, I mean, is that a good example?
Absolutely. You're talking about something that, almost blockchain could have been designed to solve a number of the problems there. What you've got is a case where, to be blunt, the parties don't trust one another. Yeah. So you need transparency. Yeah. You've got a huge dependency on paper-based legacy systems which are inefficient and subject to fraud. Blockchain can solve that. You've also got the opportunity in blockchain of smart contracts. You can take out a lot of the human involvement. So you're reducing fraud and you're reducing costs. And critically, for someone who's buying a house, you're reducing the time. Yeah,
and I think, well, if somebody's done a survey on a house and it's sitting on the blockchain and maybe that sale falls through, the next person uses the same survey and not do a brand new survey again because it's on the blockchain.
Yeah, and provided you've got the requisite permissions, so you could, rather than have the permissions, say, to write on the blockchain, you could still have the permissions to view the data within it. And this ability of private blockchains to facilitate those different levels of permissions is absolutely key.
There's a bit of a problem though, isn't there? GDPR.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that what you talk that requires to be forgotten.
Yes.
So how does that work on the blockchain?
There is a big problem there because you've got in blockchain this immutability. So GDPR requires you to be forgotten. Blockchain essentially doesn't allow you to be forgotten. So unless you go down the road of, say, storing information not on the main chain but elsewhere, then you run into problems. And likewise, if you've got a public blockchain which might not necessarily allow that, again, you've got problems. So it's something that has yet to be fully resolved by a lot of stakeholders in the business.
Okay. All right. So turning to the research itself.
Yeah.
There's a research report. There's a Excel, infrastructure Excel, and also a survey, but that's a separate product.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Just to talk about the report and the Excel to begin with, Tony. What we looked at were essentially how different verticals and different use cases could deploy blockchain. So we looked at authentication, we looked at financial services, and we looked at logistics, asset tracking.
Okay.
We looked at each of those separately, and for each of those we looked at, what were the key challenges, how was blockchain likely to benefit each of those areas, and we looked separately at the key players in each of those areas.
Okay. There was something in there which I noticed, and it was called the innovation indice. What is that?
Yeah, we looked at a dozen or more players in each of those cases, and what we did, we looked at them from two separate areas, if you like. We looked at their agility, and what we mean by that was their ability to deploy blockchain at scale, and in some cases what their capabilities were on a national, regional and international basis. And we also looked at their innovation. What was the breadth and depth of their coverage in the space? What innovation had they displayed while creating their blockchain products? And so, for example, in the authentication space, we identified two companies, IBM and GuardTime, as the clear leaders in that space.
IBM seem to be really leading this sector, don't they? Has that been a consistent leadership? Or
yes. You mentioned the survey a moment ago, and this is now the second iteration of the blockchain survey. And what we found in the latest iteration, we asked the respondents, who do you think is the leading company in the blockchain space? So we're talking about enterprises across a whole host of verticals here. And what we found was that 65% of the respondents ranked IBM as the leading company. That's nearly 10 times as much as anybody else.
I think that's the highest we've ever had for that kind of survey.
Yeah, it was an absolutely incredible response. It's
amazing.
testament to the breadth and depth of IBM's coverage in the space.
Amazing. So just to close this off, Windsor, where does Juniper see the market going? What sort of market size is it?
We separately forecast savings for enterprises and in some cases consumers across a number of the different use cases for blockchain. And one of the key ones, as you mentioned, is for financial services. Now, as I've said, it's going to take a while for blockchain to generate savings because you'll have this parallel running of the blockchain with the legacy systems. But we estimate that by the end of the next decade, financial services will be realising collective savings of around $27 billion.
Okay. Big money.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Windsor. That was very interesting. So if you would like further details of our research and our surveys, our consultancy services, then please get in touch. See you next time. Thank you.